Last week, we talked a little bit about how marketing attribution creates records and decorates records with data to help you understand how marketing engagements are leading to opportunities. And in that session or video, I hinted that I'd be going a little bit deeper into how it creates and decorates those records. So today, we're going to do just that. So there's a lot of different attribution platforms that exist on the planet, but they all share some very similar characteristics around how they create these records to track marketing engagement. So there's a few commonalities here. And so number one is putting a JavaScript on your website. JavaScript's going to go on your website and it's going to track engagement with your website. It's really the most basic form of creating these records and decorating these records. The records get decorated with UTM data, they get decorated with referring page, landing page, form URL, stuff like that. Another methodology for creating these records is through integrations. Most attribution platforms have integrations with platforms like AdWords or LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or some of the other platforms that you might be advertising on. And these integrations decorate those records with even more data because they can get into data that comes directly through the integration. So campaign level data, keyword level data, creative level data, things like that are some of the types of data that can come through integrations. Now, most of these platforms will also allow you to use things like campaign data in your CRM. So campaign data, campaign members. So if campaign type equals XYZ and campaign member status equals ABC, then create a record. Now, with this methodology, you don't get quite as much information because you're limited to the data that you're able to capture on the campaign or campaign member record itself to decorate that record of an engagement. But that's another methodology. Another one that's commonly used is CRM activity data. Data being tasks and events, mostly used to track engagement from SDRs and sales reps. And so you can use a similar type of rule-based system that determines when to create one of these records based on an activity. Now, again, you're kind of limited to how much you can decorate these records based on the data that's captured on the activity. Now, these are the four most commonly used methodologies for creating these records, which really gives you a wide berth of different types of ways that people can engage with you that are visible to your attribution platforms. Now, different platforms work in different ways. And so what you need to understand is you need to understand how you're going to market in order to figure out which platform is going to capture data that is relevant to your organization. Now, there's also ways you can get really creative with these different methodologies. So for example, Salesforce activities are primarily used to track engagement with SDRs and sales reps. But you can also use that to get creative with tracking other engagements or other ways of interacting with your organization that may not be typically thought of as Salesforce activities. So a lot of the controversy around attribution platforms and whether or not they do a good job is that there's some interactions that may be invisible to a JavaScript or an integration. And so one of the things that we always recommend clients do, and one of the things that we work with clients to do, is to help them get creative, to use one of these four methodologies that may not be obvious right out of the gate to fill some of those gaps. And so when a person tells you that a marketing attribution platform can't track a certain type of engagement, sometimes that's true. Sometimes it just means that we haven't gotten creative enough. So definitely, as you're going through your attribution journey, don't think of these things as just, well, activities tracks activities with SDRs and sales reps. It's just another tool in your toolkit that you can use to create and decorate these records. It doesn't have to be used just for SDRs and sales reps. So that's it for this video here today. We'll go into some further details a bit later on about some of the different attribution models, because I know that can get a little bit confusing and which one to use or when to use different models. So we'll be talking about the different models in the future in a future video. Thanks, everybody.